Yeah! Yeah! That's my song right there. Yeah! That's right. This is it. Woo! Come on now, I know it's early. Nothing like a little queen with your coffee. Yeah! Woo! I know y'all wasn't ready for that, were you? Yeah, we will rock you. I love that song. That's it. Come on. Yeah. Yes. Woo. That's it. Sing it. Yeah. One more time. One more time. Yeah. That's it right there. Yeah, we will rock you. Love that song. All right, you kill it. Woo, yes. Kill it. That is the song right there. Man, it'd be cool if every time you walked into a room that song came on, wouldn't it? People couldn't wait for you to show up. How you doing, MSAE? All right. Everybody feeling good? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the conference today, man. I am so excited to get an opportunity to get in front of you guys today. Got a lot to cover. Guys, I have an inspiring story that I want to share with you this morning. It's a story about employee triumph. It's a story about what happens to a business when decisions taken on high are simply wrong. I'm talking about bad decisions by corporate leadership which can wreak havoc on an entire organization, erode customer loyalty, and impact every single employee from the top all the way to the bottom. Bad decisions, I mean the type that are restrictive, controlling, and of the we're smarter than you type. I'm sure you've heard of those before. Anybody here familiar with MarketBasket? Anybody? Well, my friends, please meet Mr. Arthur, Artie for short, T. Dumalis. Artie is the CEO of MarketBasket. It's a family-owned supermarket chain actually up in the Northeast, pretty much a staple up in New England. Opened his first store about a century ago. Artie, long story short, was the company CEO until relatives decided Artie was being a little bit too flippant with the money. He actually shared profits with the employees as well. So greed, being what it is, the relatives decided to kick old Artie out of his position. Said, get out of here. But little did they know, Artie was beloved by all of the people that he led at MarketBasket. As soon as he was dismissed, 7 of his high-level managers immediately resigned, and soon thereafter 300 employees held a rally outside of its flagship store in Chelsea, Massachusetts. Additional protests with as many as 5,000 employees and customers were held at company headquarters and other locations demanding the reinstatement of Artie as their CEO. Hundreds of warehouse and corporate employees, office workers, including delivery truck drivers, they all went on strike, costing the company tens of millions of dollars in lost revenue. The shelves were empty. The stores that were usually packed with people day in and day out because of its low prices basically had trickling of customers coming in. These people were so angry, they would come to their stores and tape receipts of other stores that they had shopped at onto MarketBasket windows. They actually launched a Save MarketBasket Facebook page, got 90,000 likes. More than 160 mayors and legislators in Massachusetts and New Hampshire signed petitions agreeing to boycott MarketBasket. The new, less friendly leaders were so upset about this Bring Artie Back campaign, they threatened to fire any single employee that they knew participated in it. They ended up firing 7 supervisors. And then, public support for the employees actually intensified. During all this is going on, Artie decided, hey, maybe I should just buy this company. Maybe I should just save us. This went on for 6 weeks, y'all. A 6-week standoff between thousands of employees and management finally ended with the news that their beloved former CEO was back in control after buying the entire company. They sold the other 15.5% stake in the organization to him for $1.5 billion. How many of you have seen the original version of The Wizard of Oz, the 1939 version? You remember when Dorothy was in Kansas, it was in black and white? Then when she transferred over to Oz, they turned it to Technicolor. That's what happened at Market Basket when they found out Artie was back. This is one of the employees. An emotional situation here. This was an incredible story to me. I had to share this with you. I couldn't believe it. It's like a jubilee. This one is the one I love right here. We won. We won. That's old Artie right there. Business analysts said that the worker revolt was remarkable at a family-owned business, non-union, because these people weren't fighting for more money, more benefits, or anything like that. All they wanted was their CEO back. That was it. The Market Basket workers credit CEO Artie for treating them like family, keeping prices low, and leading the company's success. Now, I'm going to call this the Artie effect. We're going to talk about Artie a lot today. Okay? Now, we hear about CEOs getting fired all the time, don't we? Nothing ever happens. You don't hear much from it at all. But I got to ask you the question. What was it about Artie that led such a revolt among his employees? What was he doing that was so vastly different? Right? Now, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable in here this morning. I don't even want to question your employees' loyalty. But let me ask you, what do you think would happen if you were suddenly ousted out of your position for no apparent reason? Would your employees, would that indict a revolt or a celebration? That's the question I want to address today. Now, I think most people in this room, probably everybody in here, would aspire to be a leader like Artie. I would think you would want to. And to be honest, I think most people start out that way. But I think as our responsibilities get bigger, our organizations get larger, we have less and less time. I think sometimes as leaders, we have nothing else to do but sometimes separate from our employees and start looking at them a little bit like cogs in the wheel or human capital. So what I want to do for you this morning, we're going to talk about old Artie. We're going to break down Artie's philosophies, I think, and we're going to pull back the curtain and talk a little bit about what I think he did to be a lead like you mean it leader. Okay? Sound good? All right, now, see, I'm questioning now. I'm looking around. Did y'all stay out late last night? Too many shots? Well, I need you to do me a favor then. I got to make sure you guys are in the game. Are you in the game? Yeah. You in the game? Yeah. All right, everybody do me a favor. Everybody say, lead like you mean it. Lead like you mean it. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. All right, give yourselves a round of applause. That's better. All right. All right. We all know that employees are the backbones of our organizations, but still today, high levels of disengagement still plague many organizations today, right? According to Gallup's 2013 State of the Workplace study, it found that 70% of all workers are either non-engaged or actively disengaged at work. 70%. That's huge, meaning that they are totally disconnected from the places that they work for. Just out of it. They said that disengaged employees cost the American economy up to between $450 billion to $550 billion a year in lost productivity. Why? Because what is a non-engaged employee going to do? They're most likely going to steal from you, right? They're going to negatively impact all the other employees. They're probably not going to come to work, right? And lastly, you're going to chase all your customers away. Now, y'all know what I'm talking about when I talk about non-engaged employees, right? Come on. You see it every day, don't you? You see it in restaurants, you see it in hotels, you see it in car rental places, you see it on cable companies, right? Just go to your local McDonald's or Wendy's. May I help you? Sometimes you stand there, they look like they're surprised you even showed up. But that's disengagement at its highest level. But let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. Who do you think is responsible for employee engagement anyway? Raise your hand if you have at least one person reporting to you. Ding, 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 ding. Guess what? You're responsible for employee engagement. Now, the employer is responsible to some extent, but let's keep it real. Your boss has a lot to do with whether you like your job or not. Be honest, right? It is going to be difficult for a person to be engaged if they're not a fan of their boss. Who's a fan of their boss? Hey, if your boss is sitting next to you, might be a good career move. Better get it up there. You might go like, right? You got to be a fan of your boss. Because let me tell you something. There was a study done. They say 87% of employees that gave their corporations high marks also gave their boss high marks in satisfaction. You're going to be more engaged if your boss, what? First of all, cares about what you do day in, day out, right? Gives you the tools that you need to be successful, right? And make sure that they listen to and address your concerns. Your boss has a lot to do with your work satisfaction. But what do most organizations do? Who do they give it to? Employee engagement. They give it to HR. Now, I think HR has a role. But HR cannot put things in place that's going to actually impact an employee's satisfaction at work. Not like their boss. So I want you to understand that employee engagement, ladies and gentlemen, is really your role. That's what you have to do. There was another study done. They talked to 200. This is a scary study right here. They talked to 200 employees. This is alarming. They said employee engagement declines with the person's tenure in an organization. Meaning that the people that are most knowledgeable are probably the least engaged. They also looked at engagement as far as the level of in the organization. They said that senior level executives are really engaged and probably going to be disillusioned about the discontent of the employees in the front line. And guess what they found where there was the least engagement? Sales and service people. The people that face your customers or your association members every single day. That's scary. So I want you to really understand how important being a lead like you mean a leader, you have to make sure that you have people engaged at every single level of the organization. It's critical to your success. How do you feel about coming into work every morning? I know a lot of things are going to, probably affect how engaged you are, but your boss is going to have a lot to do with it, I'm sure. Right? You agree? You're more likely to enjoy your job if your boss pays attention to your work. When bosses treat employees well, the working world becomes a better place, and when employees love their jobs, they are more engaged and they perform well. But no matter how hard employees try, their good work is going to be shot to heck if their boss is so far removed from what they do every day in and out and they don't understand the heart and soul of their employees. You've got to stay plugged in. You've got to stay plugged in. Look, there's only 3 types of people in leadership today. You got the type of people that make things happen, right? You got the ones that watch things happen, and then you have the ones that just don't know what's happening. To be a lead like you mean it leader, ladies and gentlemen, you have to be plugged in, you have to stay engaged, and if you want to stay connected to your employees, you have to communicate with them. That's right, you got to talk to them. I'm a big advocate of the big C. The big C is communicate. Everybody say communicate. Communicate. Ladies and gentlemen, Napoleon said, "He who owns the lines of communications wins the war." I don't know if that's how he sounded, but sound like Napoleon to me. Ladies and gentlemen, communicate, communicate, communicate. And when you think you've communicated too much, communicate again. I have never in all of my professional career had any employee come up to me and say, "Whew, Calvin, my leadership just communicates with me too much. They just keep me in the loop way more than I need." No, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Employees want to know what's going on, man. I know a lot of leaders, man, they want to keep all the information to their chest and they don't want to share it. People can't get engaged, man, if they don't know what's going on. It's hard. Share your information with your employees so they know what's going on. Communicate with your folks. Now, let me tell you something. I know this can be difficult for some people. You know? So I'm going to help you today. I'm going to help you. Because I believe just like personal relationships, professional ones work best when it's collaborative and it's got to be a two-way street. Right? But there's one thing I want to make sure you understand, that there's no one-size-fits-all strategy when it comes to communication. Everybody communicates differently, so you have to be flexible in how you communicate with your employees. Lead like you mean it leaders. First, they accept all feedback, positive and negative, as a gift. You have to make sure you set the ground rules that your employees really understand that they can come and talk to you about anything, and understand that it's not going to be used against them later. You set the ground rules of the engagement, and you can let your employees know, hey, look, you can come talk to me about anything, as long as you do it in a respectful manner. My mama used to always say, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, right? So make sure, man, you want to make sure that they feel comfortable coming to you and talking to you. Meet employees where they are. Number 2, meet employees where they are. I used to work for one organization. They used to do this thing at the company where they would invite all of the employees up to the executive level to come up there and mingle with the executives. What they never do is we didn't want to come up there anyway. They didn't want to come up there. People felt uncomfortable coming up there. People, when they showed up, man, everybody was just like standing around. It was an awkward situation, right? Because everybody thought that the leadership was standing back. Okay, who's here? And see, you can't do that. What would have been a better option is if the executives came down to the employee level. It would have been a lot more comfortable, a lot less awkward for the employees, and it probably would have worked. I hated that program. Next, be flexible about the forum. And what I mean by that, ladies and gentlemen, I guess you could probably tell I'm an extrovert. Yeah. Maybe, you think? I'm an extrovert, so of course I'm comfortable talking to large groups. It doesn't matter, small groups, it doesn't matter, but everybody's not like that. An introvert could be very, very uncomfortable in a situation like this. So the lesson here, ladies and gentlemen, is you have to be flexible in your form and how you communicate and connect with your employees. You have to kind of find that balance, your unique voice, what works for you and your team. Just be flexible. Make room for impromptu encounters. What I mean by those, I call these drive-bys. Pop up at your employee's desk sometime. Just talk to them. I'm not saying be disruptive while they're working, but man, I get the best conversations when I just show up and ask employees how are things going, what you're working on, how are you doing. Be comfortable doing that. Of course, you need to determine when is the best time to do it, but pop up on your phone. Everything doesn't have to be a scheduled appointment. You know, and they know that you're taking interest if you're just showing up. Pop up from time to time. This is my biggie here, ladies and gentlemen. Ask good questions. Please. Ask good questions, and what I mean by that, learn to ask questions that elicit information about what your employees are doing, how they're doing it, and then you want to offer advice on how they can do it better. Your employees want to be successful, they want to contribute, and they want to know that their contributions to the organization make a difference. And there's no way that you can be a lead like you mean a leader if you're not asking good questions. You have to ask good questions. So please do that. Last but not least, no, I have one more after this. This is a biggie. Everyone has a story. Okay? Before you cut someone off and try to get your point in, remember that each person experiences things differently than you do. They have their own version of events, and they have their own unique, different ideas. This is the challenging one for a lot of people, because there is nothing more frustrating than trying to communicate with somebody, and they're doing a million different things at once. Stop, listen attentively to the person, listen to their side. Most times, we're always already thinking about the response we're going to give people while they're talking to us. This is really how you connect with your people. Take the time and listen. When somebody comes in your office, some people are like, they're answering the phone is going off, they're writing notes. No, but people know when you're not paying attention to them. Please stop and listen. How many of you in here are good listeners? Yeah, I bet if I ask your spouse or significant other, they'll tell me totally opposite, right? Let me test your listening skills. How about that? I want you to pair up with one person, okay? And what I want you to do, I want one person to be the listener, one person to be the talker. For 60 seconds, the talker is going to talk about whatever they want. Doesn't matter. Listener, you cannot respond. All you can do is listen. You can nod your head, you can act attentively, you can even blink. But you can't say anything. Okay? Pick your talker, pick your listener. And I'll tell you when to go. Go. You guys like to talk. Jeez. I hope you're talking to your employees like that. But that was fantastic. What did you that was good, right? Now you probably know somebody you didn't know when you walked in. Probably learned some good stuff, right? Give yourselves a round of applause. That was wonderful. Now, fellas in the room, you could go home and say, baby, I'm ready to listen for 60 seconds. Last but not least, dial back criticism, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going to be overly critical during these conversations, trust me, it's not going to be a positive situation for you. Okay? Appreciate and acknowledge your peers, and as a leader, learn to validate. Now, if you cannot accept something about a person, and it's very hard for you to let it go, ask them about it and try to find out why they're their way. Now, if you are uncomfortable going to that person, I'm going to just tell you, you got to let it go. Because all you're going to do is cause stress to yourself. It will. If you do need to be critical, my recommendation is to try to use I more than you. Don't say, you are stressing me out. You might want to say, I am stressed out by this situation all the time. Because it pulls it back on you and it doesn't sound as critical. So try to use I as much as you can. I think sometimes we forget about the basic niceties that we've learned in preschool, you know, and sometimes I think we tend to engage with people, you know, sometimes we could be a little aggressive or abrasive, but I always just recommend to be a lead like you mean it leader. Always be considerate of other people's feelings. I think that's important, and you know, just because you're in a leadership role, you should never think that somebody is in that role, you know, that they're beneath you, okay? Just always treat people, I love this saying here, it says, always remember to treat others not as you would treat yourself, but rather as they would treat themselves. It's a little bit different twist to it. Cool? Everybody still with me? Cool. Do it one more time. Lead like you mean it. Come on. Lead like you mean it. All right, there was a DEA officer. He had to go check farmers' land for illegal drugs. Okay, he gets to one ranch, sees this old rancher, and he said, sir, I need to check your land for illegally grown drugs. Rancher says, no problem, officer, just don't go over there in that field over there. DA officer says, hold up. Who do you think you're talking to, mister? Goes in his pocket, pulls out his badge, and he says, you see this badge? Do you see this badge? This badge gives me the authority to go wherever I want, when I feel like it, on whose ever land that I want. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Rancher says, I'm sorry. Goes on to do his chores. A few minutes go by. Rancher hears some screaming out front. Ah! Rancher drops his tools, runs outside, and he sees the DA officers being chased by the biggest bull that you have ever seen. Okay? This bull is on this guy's butt this much, about to gorge him. So the rancher's like, oh my God, oh my God. He runs over to the fence and he says, your badge, show him your badge. Lead like you mean it, leaders. Demonstrate humility. Everybody say demonstrate humility. All right. Because when you think about leadership, usually the word humble or humility probably won't come up. What words usually come up when somebody talks about leadership? What words will you hear? Respect. Respect. Anybody else? Assertive. You might hear bold, decision maker. Humble probably won't come up, and if it does, it's usually not going to be in a complimentary manner. But I believe humility is a character trait that needs to be valued and developed in leaders. Okay? Because I believe being a humble leader, it doesn't mean that you devalue your own strengths. All it means is that you have some opportunities to grow, that you have weaknesses. How many of you have weaknesses? If your hand isn't up, your weakness is you don't think you have any. You got to, you know, what we're really saying is, ladies and gentlemen, great leaders have the capacity for self-evaluation, and they seek out other people's input and creativity and ideas to continue to grow. That's all it is. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing something, ladies and gentlemen. All of us can use a checkup from the neck up every now and then, right? The most effective leaders, ladies and gentlemen, they know that they don't have all the answers. You cannot have all the answers. I know as a leader sometimes you think you need to, but you can't. So I want to just encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, to seek out the knowledge of others. Tap into your employees' talent and help them to be successful as well. I truly believe that tapping into the curiosity and imaginations of those around you will get you to the better solution. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't. I love what Einstein had a quote right here. He says, I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. We got to be curious. We got to ask questions. We got to be inquisitive of our people. You might ask an employee something, tap into a talent they didn't even know they had. But you got to be willing to do that. That's what lead like you mean it leaders do. Don't fall prey to your own publicity. And what I mean by that, ladies and gentlemen, spin and sensationalism is an attractive angle to take in today's self-centered society that we live in today, right? But the more we get accustomed to seeking other people's affirmation and basking in other people's successes, you're going to actually lose credibility, your objectivity, and it's going to diminish your focus. And actually what you also do, which I think is even worse, is you're going to look at people that they've been put into your path to serve you. And that's not what lead like you mean it leadership is. It's all about we, not about I. So you got to revel in the accomplishments and the potential of others. Lead like you mean it leaders have no problem taking the spotlight off of them and putting it on other people. I think management guru Ken Blanchard said it best. He said, humble leaders don't think less of themselves. They just think of themselves less. I love that quote. Love that quote. I was recently hired as the CEO of a wonderful nonprofit organization, but I'll talk to you about that a little bit more later. But how many of you are CEOs, not CEOs, or report to a board of directors or anything like that? Okay, so you probably know I have a board as well. But I've been thinking about this a little bit as well. I think we should have our own personal board of directors. I really do. Now, I'm not talking about just these high, intellectual people that, is going to help guide our organization. I'm just talking about people you surround yourself with every single day. People that inspire you and people that will help take you to the next level. I think we should have a board of directors. And I want to give you some ideas on how you can build your own board. Some of you may already have one. They're just not called formally board of directors. Okay? Power of choice. How you're going to feel on any given day and how you're going to react to certain life situations, the choice is absolutely yours. Famous football coach Lou Holtz said that life is 10% what happens to us, and it's 90% how we react to it. And staying focused and staying motivated and staying engaged can be one of the hardest things for us to do, especially when things don't go quite our way or as we plan them to. But I want you to be prepared for the unexpected and look at problems and obstacles as opportunities. My marching orders for you today, throughout the rest of this conference, is to stay focused, stay engaged, stay upbeat, stay positive, stay excited. But most of all, stay true to yourself, because nobody can do you better than you. Nobody. So do you. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you.